employment. I'm 30 years old now, and I've heard that my whole life. It's constantly being spoken about on the tongues of every Australian. Well, what about Indigenous health? What about Indigenous suicide? I've actually been in a situation where I've actually cut the rope of one of my cousins who have actually tried to kill themselves. I live in the community where government labeled a poverty-stricken area, but I don't see no poverty. I see a rich society that is so proud to be who they are, and they respect that because capitalism hasn't actually overthrown their culture and their lifestyle, they're actually getting the opportunity to establish a process in how we can work together, how we can, as two separate cultures, non-Indigenous and Indigenous people, can work together to create the appropriate means of development that will not compromise who we are in relation to our values. I am at the moment walking around the Dampier Peninsula, and I constantly get spoken to by a lot of the members who are not necessarily tied to this process, this consultation process. They are not direct traditional owner representatives. But they are people who are going to be impacted if this development was to occur. And the constant thing that they ask me is, what's going on? Oh, they're still going to go ahead with that gas plant? Oh, no. What? They still haven't even fixed our problems that led us here in the first place. They haven't helped us. They haven't helped us understand the concept of country, the opportunity to create a sense of legislative perspective. We've only been given the perspective that government wants us to endorse, but never given the opportunity to actually draw up our own process, to actually tell the government, this is how we believe you should engage Indigenous people, and this is how we believe the right method should go. Not sit here and just alternatively compromise what we believe in just so that the process can go ahead. Because I'm telling you, that is what causes suicide. That is what kills our old people. It is that negligence, it is that neglect, it is that ignorance that Indigenous people cannot make their own decisions and use their own brains. Are we so stupid and uneducated that we can't make our own process? We can't create our own process? Now, I firmly I don't believe that. I believe that we can if we give the opportunity. At the moment, there is chaos occurring on the Dampier Peninsula with people who are not tied to this negotiation process. They are trying their very best to invest into their long-term sustainable future. And that's what they want. They understand the concept of economy. They understand the concept of progress. But they are trying to identify, where is the balance here? Why am I, as an Indigenous person, constantly giving up my values and giving up who I am just so that I can be seen as an Australian? To me, that's insulting, because it tells me that Australia doesn't want to listen to me. It doesn't want to hear my story, and it doesn't want to take my story as an Indigenous person seriously. And it doesn't want to grant me the right to protect my values as a human being. That's what creates fear. That's what creates, uncertainty. That's what creates division amongst our community. And so ever since colonization, we've seen, every time government get together, they always come up with new solutions, new ideas, new ways on trying to improve the Indigenous factor. And it's ridiculous because we now realize it's a waste of time. It's been a waste of time. And all this money that everybody thought was doing the best thing for Aboriginal people, done nothing. It only made them dependent on legislative perspective that the government had imposed. So only option they feel now is to not even challenge the government. We got no hope in hell. You can't beat the government. You might as well just sign off, boy, just take the money and run. Might as well, don't even go down that track. Now, as a young Indigenous person who has got 2 children of my own, that frightens me. When my own elders can tell me that, when my own leaders can look at me with a self-defeatist attitude and say, my boy, there is nothing we can do. I don't believe that. When I first got involved with this gas issue, I knew that my opinion would not sit with the Kimberley Land Council. My independent opinion, my perspective was not going to be fully represented by the people that are supposed to represent me, and that is the Kimberley Land Council. And so as an Indigenous person, I looked at a way where I could at least get this story out to people so that they had an understanding of what was really going on. So Save the Kimberleys started. As an Indigenous person, I was chastised and criticized as an Aboriginal person to go and affiliate with non-Indigenous people, or tourist ventures, people who are invested into the land. Unfortunately, my perspective is all of Australia, except for non-Indigenous people, are invested into this country. And the difference between you and I is that we are inherited into this country. And there will always be that fundamental difference. But unfortunately, that inheritance has been neglected. The value of that inheritance is being neglected. And we are now expected to compromise that in order to gain the benefits that we deserve as human beings. We are literally being treated like dogs because we constantly bark and we try to alert and raise concerns, but we get no feedback. We're just troublemakers. That's what we're called. So Save the Kimberleys allowed me and my people who feel they don't have a voice an opportunity to get their story out there. It showed an example of what the Kimberley truly represents, and that is a society where non-Indigenous and Indigenous people work together. And they work together for that one common goal, to keep country. Because at the end of the day, when you are on the other side of the world, or where, as an Indigenous person, wherever you are, you know that you are strong inside because you belong. You belong to your country. Where do you belong when you sell your country? Unfortunately, I believe, they're going to be lost. They're not going to be anywhere because they'll have no self-esteem. It will just perish them. And then for future generations, younger Indigenous people are going to inherit that mentality that, the only way I can provide the best opportunity or the best future for my people is to give government a bit of my country. Give government that tree there where my grandfather was born. So I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for that particular landmark. My family wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that particular rock or that tree. But that tree doesn't mean nothing in the whole perspective of things, especially from the government's eyes. It's categorized under law and culture or heritage values, and it's giving a political terminology, and it's mixed in with so many other issues that it loses its real value. So it's diminishing our spirit. It's killing our spirit. And this is what we are fighting for. Because Australia has this unique gift, and it is called the Kimberleys. It is a strong, strong country where Aboriginal people still live off their land. I don't buy food from my shop. I do not. Amazingly, I actually live off the land. Everything that I eat and my family eat comes from the land that we grew up in. Yet, I managed to put my children into school so they can get educated. I managed to have a business. I am also employed with 2 jobs. So I can manage to create an environment where my people are strong, and I can also manage to keep my connection with country. Industry does not allow that. Industry will never allow that because it is too close to us as Indigenous people. Our land is always going to be too close to us. And unfortunately, in the most harshest words, the minute they kill that country, it's going to have a rippling effect throughout the whole Kimberleys, because the Kimberleys is rich, unbelievably rich in minerals. And these minerals were discovered 30, 40 years ago. And it's just been a strategic method on how government could just implement these consultation process to engage Aboriginal people and eventually get an agreement or some sort of cooperated agreement or process with Aboriginal people so that it could get access to their land. And yet still, Aboriginal people have no legislative perspective on how they want to deal with their problems, how they want to deal with their land. That is pure negligence. And I'd just like to thank you guys for hearing my story. Thank you.